So now that you're done underglazing your pinch pot, you're ready to put a clear glaze on top of it. So underglazing provides the beauty, but in order to make it waterproof and able to use and be able to clean out, you need to create a glass barrier on the surface of your pot so that it can be cleaned out and washed and reused. Once you're completely done with your underglazes, you're going to grab the bottle of transparent glossy glaze. And I like to use 2 paintbrushes when I'm painting glaze on, one for getting into little areas and one for painting larger areas. So lastly, I like to put down a paper towel so that it helps to protect my piece from anything that might be on the table. Okay, so the very first thing you're going to do is you're going to grab this transparent glossy glaze, and I want you to shake it up. Whenever you shake anything up in this class, you want to make sure that you put your fingers on top here when you're shaking it up. I can't tell you how many times I've seen somebody do this and it ends up with glaze going all down either the other people around them or on themselves. So make sure that you check to make sure that the cap is on, and then use your finger on top when you're shaking it, and make sure that you shake it up really good. Now, you can paint directly from the bottle, or if you want to get a plastic cup, you can pour a little in a plastic cup and paint from there. It's completely up to you. Now, underglazes are made out of clay. You just painted them on your piece, and you want to make sure that they don't smear when you apply the glaze. So the first coat that you're going to do, instead of brushing on, you're going to dab on. And take and dip your brush, and I like to dip my brush and stop before I get right here to the hilt because it's a lot easier to clean up if I don't dip it too far in. And then I'm just going to take the brush and I'm going to dab it on. Okay, and then you're going to go back for more and dab it on. You'll notice that I'm not spreading it too terribly thin. A lot of people, when they first start glazing, they'll do this and they'll keep going, thinking that they're really continuing to cover the surface. But in order to get a good solid layer of glass on your piece, you need to make sure that you're not spreading it out too thin. So you're going to dab it on, and once you run out of glaze on your brush, you're going to dip back in and do some more. Now, in this little area right here, I feel like I could use a little brush to get in there. So again, I always glaze with 2 brushes, a little one and a big one, because I like to use the little one to get into little areas. Okay, you want to make sure that you're doing the inside of the mug as well, or the inside of your candle pinch pot as well as the outside of your candle pinch pot. And you'll notice that I'm just taking my time, dabbing it on, going back for more, and keep dabbing it on. Like so. Now, once you finish the first coat, you're going to let it dry. So I'll be right back when I have a chance to do. So while I'm letting this dry, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about what glazes are made out of. Now, glazes are made out of sand. So what's in this bottle is sand that is suspended in a liquid in the form of what's called silica. Silica is the material that it's made out of, which is essentially sand. That when I fire it to a temperature of 2,232 degrees, it melts and creates a glass surface on your piece. So everybody kind of panics when you start to say, look, I spent all that time working on color, and I'm just covering it up with this white glaze. And as long as you make sure that you're painting it with transparent glossy glaze, don't worry, when it goes into the kiln and gets fired to temperature, it melts and creates a clear glass surface, just like the glass on windows or doors. Now, your first question is going to be like, where do I need to put glaze? Just like underglazing, it kind of depends on where you put underglazes, and you can cover the whole thing with shiny glaze like this, or you can cover just parts of it with transparent glossy glaze. The only part that you're required to paint with transparent glossy glaze is the inside, and it goes up into the outside here. Because remember, this is creating a waterproof surface on our piece that we'll be able to clean, and then we won't get sick if we use it. And I know we're putting candles in these things, but a lot of things that you make in this class you're going to be using to drink hot cocoa out of, maybe ice cream out of, and you want to make sure that you're not going to get sick. And that you'll be able to clean it. So that's what the clear glaze is for. On the outside, you can kind of pick and choose where you want it to be. You can paint it on the whole piece if you'd like. The one place that you can't paint glaze is here on the bottom, because and I'll explain that to you next time I see you. And the reason why you can't paint the bottom of it is because, remember, this is going to melt into a glass, shiny glass surface. And if you put it down on the kiln shelf in the kilns, it will come out and it will be stuck to the kiln shelf. You'll have this giant shelf attached onto your pinch pot. So make sure that you don't paint the bottom. You have to paint the inside, and then you can decide on the side what you want to be shiny and glossy and what you want to be matte. So in the meantime, while I was talking to you about that, this part has dried. You really need to make sure that this first coat dries completely before you paint on the second coat. And I'm confident that you can find something to do while you're waiting for it to dry. But once you painted on the first coat, you can go ahead and paint the second coat on, doing the same thing. Again, you'll notice that I'm not spreading the glaze out too thin. I'm making sure to go back for more. And I'm using the little brush when I'm getting into areas that I need to. Okay, so this is the second coat. I'm going to wait for this to dry, and if when it's dry everything looks white, I'm good. If I can see any color whatsoever, I want to paint a third coat onto it. Your entire piece should look white when it's all done. Don't forget to paint the inside, and don't forget to leave the bottom unpainted. And if you have any questions, as usual, just hold on till I come back